Welcome back to IT Coach for Small Business Leaders, a podcast brought to you by InfoSystems, where we believe strong leaders don't avoid technology conversations. They get educated and get engaged. I'm here with my co-host, Swann, who is the IT coach for all small business leaders everywhere.
Everywhere, wow.
I can just kind of broaden that, right?
Does that come with a pay raise?
Maybe.
Okay.
We'll have to ask the higher ups about that and see what happens. So welcome back, Aaron. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about you, Josh?
Doing great.
I'm doing really well with that pay raise. So
Yeah, no kidding. If I can make that happen, then let's just take a vacation and record from an exotic location like a beach somewhere with margaritas. And
Okay.
all right. So today we're back to talk about backups as part of our series on managed services. So let's jump right into managed backups.
All right.
Give me the issues that most small businesses face.
Well, we talked last time about the idea of the difference between consumer grade and professional grade managed services type thing. And so in the world of backup, is certainly no exception to that. So if you think about it in a home environment, you can certainly, there's a number of offerings out there where you can just say, hey, I want to back up my home computer system to the cloud. I pay a monthly fee to do that, and it takes care of it. You know what? For the home environment, that's fantastic to make sure you don't lose those precious photos of when you were in that exotic location, right? So those are some great offerings to do that. The problem, though, I think comes in when business leaders try to take that and say, I'm going to use that same service that I use at home, and I'm just going to apply that to my business. And so they dial it up, apply that, and think, okay, I'm safe. My data is being backed up. So managed backup needs to start with the idea of we need to make some business decisions about what are my objectives. So let me ask you first the question, Josh.
Sure.
What's the most important thing about backup?
That it's always there.
Right? And then I can do what with it?
Restore.
Yeah, then I can restore. And so, or recover, right? So backup allows me to recover from something that's happened. So when we're talking about backup, there's a couple of, I like to really start with the idea of, let's clearly define what our objectives are. So in a business, there's two really key objectives for backup, and they are recovery point objective and recovery time objective. You'll hear them abbreviated RPO and RTO. So if you just imagine, a timeline going around here, and recovery point objective starts. So let's say I'm moving on down through my timeline. Something happens, a disaster, hard drive failure, a fire, tornado, something has caused me to lose some data somewhere. Recovery point says, how far back in time do I have to go to get valid data? In other words, how much data am I going to lose from this disaster that has just happened? Am I going to lose a week's worth of data that I'm going to have to reconstruct? 3 days, 2 days, 1 day? So it's making a decision, how much data can I lose and still stay in business?
Yeah.
All right. The other one is recovery time objective. So you have that same timeline that you're going along on. Recovery time objective says, from the moment this happens, the disaster occurs, how quickly can I be back up and running again? So what's the ideal answer for both of those, RPO and RTO?
0.
Exactly.
I can answer that one.
Yeah. The ideal answer is 0.
Yeah.
I lose no data and I'm back up instantly. Well, you know what? That's in today's technology. We can get pretty close to that being true. But guess what? That's expensive.
Right.
To have a solution that's 0 loss, 0 downtime, we can do it almost to 100%, not quite. We can get quite a few nines out there.
Sure.
But that comes at a price tag. In fact, both of those numbers are tied. So the closer to 0 you get for both of them, the higher the price tag.
We'll be back with the IT Coach for Small Business Leaders podcast after we pause for this special message. Did you know that you can book a personal IT strategy session with Swann, host of the IT Coach for Small Business Leaders podcast? We created this podcast to be a valuable resource for small business leaders in our community, but we wanted to take it one step further. You can book a free meeting with Aaron Swann to review your IT strategy and help build a plan that will lead to IT success. Just visit our website at www.infosystems.biz, follow the link to book your IT strategy session, and you'll be able to work directly with Aaron to build your IT success strategy. Now back to the podcast. For certain types of businesses, one or the other of those would be more or less important.
Absolutely.
And then maybe for some businesses, both are just absolutely crucial.
Right. And as you're alluding to, it's a business decision. It depends on your business, the size of your business, what your business does. I have customers that are hundreds of $1 million, but because of the nature of their business, they've said, you know what, to me, Aaron, if we were down for a couple days, but as long as you can assure me that I don't lose any data, I can be down for 3 days. I was a little surprised by that. I was like, okay, that's how we'll design your solution.
Mm-hmm.
We have others like, I can't be down because every hour that I'm down, it costs me big bucks.
Yeah.
So it comes to, so managed backup starts with the idea of what are my objectives? I've got to determine those at the outset.
Yeah.
From there, then that determines what technology I use, whether it's tape, which is starting to go away, whether it's hard drive based, whether it's cloud based, whether it's some hybrid model. Everything comes out of that informed decision of what are my objectives. So once I've made that decision, now I can go and put a system in place that's going to back up. So to determine that recovery point objective, well, the thing that determines that is, well, how often do I back up, right? Am I constantly backing up to a hot site so I can't be down at all? Or am I taking a backup every hour? Am I taking a backup every night?
Mm-hmm.
So if I take a backup every night, at most I'll lose 24 hours. I'll tell you that's the most common thing that we see with majority of small business customers. They can take a backup every night. If they happen to crash right before the backup occurs that night, they would lose that day's worth, right? Most businesses in our experience say that's an acceptable risk to me.
Yeah.
And so we design the solution based on that. Same thing with recovery time is how quickly do you need to have, because recovery time is more than just the backup system. It's also the ability to run whatever I recovered, right? So that depends on the nature of the disaster. Am I having a disaster? Am I losing data because the server failed? Well, if so, I've got to have a plan in place that says I can get a replacement hard drive or replacement power supply in a 4-hour time window or something like that. So it's just making those decisions. Once those systems are in place, well, they're not just set it and forget it. Backup never has been.
Yeah.
I've been in the business for 30 plus years now, and back in my day, it was mostly tapes that you were used to back up.
Yeah.
And the problem that you would see is, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a new business that I'm surveying them to take them on as a customer, and you walk in and you see, here's their server, and piled up on top of the server is a stack of tapes. And I'm like, that's great. Who changes them out? Well, Sally down in accounting, she does that every now and then. I'll talk to Sally. She's like, yeah, I'm pretty good about swapping those out. Sometimes I forget. Well, she forgets. The backup doesn't happen. Well, what happens if the building burns down? Well, sometimes Jim will take the tapes home with him on the weekend to make sure that we're okay. If that's an acceptable solution to you, then great. But I think most business owners would say, that's too much risk for me.
Sure, yeah.
So the solution's got to be designed. Nowadays, technology has made it so much easier because we can put appliances in that take the human aspect out of it as much as possible.
Yeah.
And for me, for a backup solution to work well, that's what has to happen. So we can put an appliance that looks at all my systems. It says, all right, I'm scheduled to run this backup at this time. I'm going to do this. I'm also going to verify to make sure that it did back up. And then I'm going to send a report of what happened. And that's where the managed services starts to kick in. Now we've got a live person who's looking at that report and saying, okay, this happened, we're good. Or, oh, that system backed up, this one did not. What can I do to remediate that? Possibly I can even remediate it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
because, maybe a server rebooted because of a Windows update or something like that. Maybe I can just say, ooh, retry, so I can get that backup done tonight and not lose the chance. So there's a whole spectrum of decision making and just what level that you want.
We're really doing this podcast to educate small business owners about how to make better IT decisions. One of the things that struck me as I was listening to you talk through the managed backups, different types, and all of the different aspects of it was it's an incredibly complex decision just to arrive at what RTO am I shooting for, what RPO am I shooting for, what solution do I need to put in place to help me achieve those, to reduce risk, who am I going to put in charge of all of these things. I mean, it's not I'm just going to do this.
Right.
Easy decision. I think one of the values of what we're talking about, professional grade managed services versus more of like a consumer model, on the consumer models, you're really expected to be able to do all of the research online, come to all of those conclusions on your own, and click the buy now button.
Right.
Launch the service on your own. I mean, there's really no guidance there. To me, one of the most valuable things of a true professional grade managed service is someone like you to help steer me through that entire decision making process.
Right. And that's what we try to do, because every business is different, but a lot of businesses have similarities, and we have seen, through the years, how to tailor that to their specific needs.
Yeah.
So, and then once you have the systems in place, they have to be maintained, they have to be monitored, because as we said before, the most important thing about backup is, can I restore? Can I recover? Well, so I've got to make sure someone's got to be watching to make sure that those reports do come in. And even beyond that, I like those reports, but we want to verify that they're accurate too. So part of managed backup is doing periodic test restores to go in and say, all right, is this really working? Can I really get back? Depending on the business, that may even be a full-scale, DR simulation to make sure that, wow, if the worst can happen, can I really make my RTO?
Yeah.
And, just like in schools, we do fire drills, right?
Yeah.
Just to make sure that the kids really can get out to safety. And in the IT world, we do drills to make sure that we really can.
For those out there who don't know the DR acronym, that's for disaster recovery. So
Right.
when you say DR simulation, that's where you're acting out a disaster recovery scenario,
Right.
such as my building burnt down, or there was
Right.
disruption in my backup services for a period of time. How do we overcome that? So, yeah.
There's multiple ways to approach that. I mean, we have people that can come in, not only do simulations, but we all can do what we call table talks, right? Where you sit down across the table from a business owner and walk through possible scenarios and determine, okay, if this happens, who's responsible? What are we going to do? What actions are we going to take?
Again, and the tabletop exercises like that, I've listened in on our cybersecurity team talking through some of those tabletop exercises that they've conducted for our customers. It's not just limited to cybersecurity, it's also
Sure.
all types of different IT scenarios. But again, that's where if you're purchasing something automated online, everything's on you
Right.
to build out the processes and the preparedness for when something goes wrong. Not a lot of value there from a do-it-yourself type product. So
Yeah, and it's like we said a couple episodes or last episode ago, it may be fine for you to be the do-it-yourself guy if you're just starting the business and you don't have cash to spend to get professional help. But as your business grows, keep in mind that if you're focusing your time and attention on IT, you're not focusing your time and attention on growing your business and what you went to school for.
sure, and let's be clear, it is possible for business people to be able to do those things on their
Sure.
own. It's not like they need a highly qualified IT resource to do everything for them.
Right.
It's like you said, a business decision. Where is my time most valuable? If they can't afford the full managed services,
Right.
then they might want to figure it out on their own, and we would do our best to educate them in that scenario as well.
And again, it goes to complexity, right? So it depends on how complex your business and what your systems are.
Yeah.
It may be you could figure it out. It may be that it's way over your head if you have, if you're a complex manufacturing facility with,
Right.
Hundreds of things involved in that have to be addressed, then you may need a professional from the get-go, but it's all business decision.
Good discussion. I think we're about wrap up time here. So any last words of wisdom around managed backups for our viewers?
I think it's just the idea of start with your objectives. I think that's the most important thing is if disaster does happen, what do I need to be the end result of that? How quickly can I recover? How much data can I afford to lose?
Yep. Good points to keep in mind. Thanks, Aaron, for
Thanks, Josh.
sitting down today and taking time once again to help educate small business leaders. This podcast, IT Coach for Business Leaders, is brought to you by InfoSystems, where we believe strong business leaders don't avoid technology conversations. They get educated and get involved. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.